My name is *Rizwan*, and I belong to a small town in Punjab. This incident happened to me in 2015. At that time, I was 23 years old. I came from an ordinary family, 4 brothers, 2 sisters, and I was the youngest. Perhaps that is why the most responsibilities fell on me. And perhaps that is why I always felt that I was strong, sensible, and could not be affected by any illusion or fear. Our house was an ordinary house, old brick walls, slight damp stains, a small courtyard, and in one corner of the courtyard a neem tree whose leaves would fall in the courtyard in every season. In the morning, at the time of the dawn prayer, the call from the mosque would echo directly into our courtyard. I would often wake up to this sound. That day something similar happened. After the dawn prayer, I opened my eyes and a gust of cold wind came into the room from the courtyard. I didn't feel like getting out from under the blanket, but my mother's voice came, "Rizwan, get up. You have to go get milk." I slowly got up. The cold floor touched my feet and a slight shiver ran through my body. I came out into the courtyard. The sky was a faint grayish color. The sun had not fully risen yet. There was silence in the neighborhood, only the faint sound of utensils coming from some house here and there. I took the motorcycle and went to get milk. On the way, the same familiar faces, the same shops, the same greetings. No one thought that this day would be different from any other. I myself didn't either. I came back home and placed the milk. Then I helped my mother with breakfast. My elder brothers were getting ready to go to their shops. My father was reading the newspaper as usual. My sisters were laughing about something among themselves. It was all so ordinary that even today, when I remember it, my heart sinks. By noon, I had finished small tasks around the house. Around 3 p.m., my phone rang. On the screen was my maternal uncle's name. My uncle was a man of somewhat different temperament in our family. His business was spread across various cities, sometimes one city, sometimes another. He didn't talk much, just got straight to the point. I answered the call. "Rizwan," my uncle's voice came, "bring your motorcycle and come to my house. There is urgent work." I asked, "What work, uncle?" He only said, "I'll tell you when you get here, don't be late." I ended the call and called out to my mother. "Mother, uncle has called me, I'm going to his house." My mother looked at me as if she wanted to say something. Then she just said, "Come back soon. The cold is increasing." I put on my jacket, started the motorcycle, and headed toward my uncle's house. When I reached my uncle's house, he made me sit down. He didn't waste much time. He handed me an envelope and a piece of paper with the address and phone number of a city. "There is a dealer in a nearby city," my uncle said. "Deliver this cash to him. The petrol money is separate." Then, becoming a little serious, he said, "Leave quickly. In winter, traveling on a motorcycle at night is not good." I nodded. At that time, it all seemed like an ordinary task, something I had done many times before. I put the envelope in my pocket, took permission from my uncle, and stepped outside. I didn't know that this leaving home, this starting of the motorcycle, and this ordinary journey was slowly taking me to a place from which only the body would return, not the mind. When I left after filling petrol at the pump, it was 4 p.m. As soon as I left the city, the traffic gradually decreased. Fields replaced houses. The shadows of trees on the roadside were growing longer. I had passed this route many times, so my mind was completely at peace. No unknown fear, no apprehension. Just the cold that, despite the jacket, was seeping into my arms. After going some distance, I remembered the turn where the main road curved. I calculated in my heart that if I went via the main road, it would be night by the time I returned. Then I remembered the shortcut, a local road, broken and rough but shorter. I thought for a moment, then turned the motorcycle that way. This decision seemed perfectly right at the time. I had gone this way before. Yes, the road was bad but not dangerous. In the beginning there were a few houses, mud walls, small courtyards, cattle tied outside. Somewhere the smell of burning wood came from a house. Then slowly all of this began to disappear. A few minutes later, the habitation was left behind. Now there were bushes on both sides of the road, tall trees whose trunks looked even blacker in the darkness. The motorcycle's headlight made a limited circle on the road. Beyond that, nothing was visible. I reduced my speed. The road was broken in places. There was a strange silence in the air, the kind that starts ringing in your ears. To keep myself normal, I started humming a song softly, just absent-mindedly. About an hour and a half later, I entered the city where I had to deliver the cash. The atmosphere changed again. Shops, people, lights, my heart found some relief. When I reached the address my uncle had given me, there was a small shop. The shutter was half open. A bulb was burning inside. I parked the motorcycle to one side and entered. Inside, a thin young man sat wearing a sweater, a register open in front of him on the table. I said, "Brother, is so-and-so here?" He looked up at me, then closed the register. "He has stepped out for a while," he said. "Please sit down." I sat on a chair. There was a slight cold in the shop. Outside, whenever a vehicle passed, light would come in, then darkness would return. I checked my watch. Half an hour had passed. I dialed the number. "Brother, I've arrived," I said. "Where are you?" The voice from the other side said, "I'm coming, 10 minutes." I hung up and waited. But 10 minutes turned into half an hour. Outside, the darkness was increasing. The bulb's light now seemed brighter. The young man kept looking at me as if he himself was restless. Finally, that man came without any special conversation. I handed over the envelope. He didn't even bother to count it, just nodded. I didn't waste a moment. Immediately went outside, started the motorcycle, and left for the return journey. The city fell behind. Now again the same road, the same darkness, and the same shortcut. The cold had increased further. I sped up. I just wanted to get past that part quickly where there was nothing, no people, no light, no sound. I didn't know that the real journey was about to begin, and after what was to come, darkness would never seem as simple to me as it did at that moment. As the last light of the city fell behind me, I felt for the first time that the road had become more deserted than necessary. There was no light except the motorcycle's headlight. Clouds covered the sky, so even the moon was not visible. There was moisture in the air. And the cold was now seeping straight into my bones. I wrapped the muffler around my neck and increased my speed a little more. I kept moving on this deserted road for about 40 minutes. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the back of the motorcycle, as if something was dragging. The very next moment, the balance was lost. I immediately applied the brake and stopped at the side of the road. My heart pounded loudly for a moment. I looked down. The tire was completely flat. A puncture. I took a deep breath and told myself that this was no big deal. It had happened before. I put the motorcycle on its stand. My hands were trembling, perhaps from the cold, perhaps from something else. I didn't even know myself. I opened the toolbox, took out the pump, and started filling air in the tire. While filling the air, there was a strange silence. So much silence that every sound of the pump seemed unusual to me. After filling the air, I started the motorcycle and set off again. Just 5 minutes had passed when the motorcycle started wobbling again. A jolt went through my heart. I stopped again. The tire was flat once more. Strange, I said to myself. I filled air again. This time my hands were trembling even more. My fingers seemed to be going numb. I checked my watch. Time was passing quickly. The darkness had become even deeper. I set off again. But this time too, after a few minutes, the same thing happened. The tire was flat again. Now a slight unease settled in my heart. I tried to fill air for the third time, but the pump seemed to be resisting. The air just wouldn't go inside. I parked the motorcycle to the side and looked around. The road was disappearing into bushes on both sides. There was no light anywhere for miles. No sound. Just the faint rustle of wind moving through the leaves of the trees. I took out my mobile. The screen lit up, giving me a little comfort, but the very next moment hope shattered. There was no signal, not even a single bar. I lifted the mobile up, turned it this way and that, but nothing worked. At that moment my eyes fell on a faint light somewhere in the distance. So faint that at first it seemed like an illusion. I blinked. I looked again. No, it was real light. Behind the trees and bushes, far away as if someone had lit a lamp, a hope flickered in my heart. Perhaps there was a house, a checkpoint, a person. I left the motorcycle there, turned on the mobile torch and started walking toward that light. As soon as I left the road, the ground became soft. Bushes started brushing against my legs. Thorns would get caught in my clothes here and there. I was stepping carefully, my eyes mostly on the ground so I wouldn't fall into a hole. After walking for about 10 minutes, I raised my head and looked. The light was still visible, but it seemed as far away as before. I told myself that perhaps the distance was greater. I started walking again. My breathing had quickened. My heartbeat was now clearly audible. The silence around no longer felt the same, as if behind every silent moment something was hidden. After a while, I looked back again. This time my heart jumped in my chest. That light was now behind me, not far away, perhaps 50 meters away. I stopped there. My mind immediately said, "This is impossible. How could the light move behind me?" I rubbed my eyes and looked again. The light was still there. Silent still. I scolded myself. The mind is playing games because you are scared. I slowly turned around and started walking toward the light again. As I got closer, a strange warmth began to be felt, as if someone had suddenly turned off the cold. Sweat appeared on my forehead. Suddenly, the light disappeared completely, as if someone had blown out a lamp. In an instant, everything was drowned in darkness. I stopped right there. My heart was beating so loudly that I thought someone else would hear it too. I looked around, moved the mobile torch, but saw nothing. Then in the darkness, I saw 2 points of light flickering a few steps away. Eyes. They looked like an animal's eyes, but there was something in them that animals don't have. They were looking at me, directly at me. At that moment, for the first time, I truly felt fear. The kind that rises not from the body, but from within. I understood that I was not alone here, and this feeling in this darkness was the most terrifying thing for me. I started stepping back slowly. With every step, my breath grew faster. I didn't take my eyes off those eyes. I felt that if I looked away, something very wrong would happen. Suddenly, I felt as if someone had taken a step behind me, the sound of mud pressing lightly. I jerked my head back. There was nothing there. When I turned back to the front, those eyes were gone. In this silence, in this darkness, I felt for the first time that perhaps I would not be able to return from here. I stood there for a few moments, completely still, as if even if I breathed a little louder, someone would hear me. My heart was pounding so loudly that its beat was echoing in my ears. A strange weakness had descended into my legs, but my mind kept saying that standing here is the worst decision. I started stepping back slowly. One step, then another. Thorns from the bushes would catch my clothes and my heart would jump into my throat. I kept looking back, then forward, then back again. But those eyes were no longer visible. This disappearance was far more terrifying than their appearance. I cursed myself in my heart. Coming here, leaving the motorcycle, was the biggest stupidity. If I had stayed on the road, at least I would have known my location. Here, there was the same darkness everywhere. Trees, bushes, and silence. I gripped the mobile torch tightly and started heading back toward the motorcycle, but the path didn't seem like the one I had come from. The bushes felt denser. The ground was soft in some places, hard in others. I quickened my pace, then suddenly stopped. Someone was behind me. This was not a thought. This was a feeling, exactly as if someone was standing very close to you, watching you. A weight came on my shoulders. A tingling ran through the back of my neck. I forced myself to turn around. Behind me was darkness. Nothing. But at that same moment, I heard someone breathing. Very faint, but right next to me. A suppressed sound involuntarily escaped my mouth. I had just taken a step forward when suddenly a scream echoed in the air. That scream was not of any animal. It had pain in it, anger, and something that is difficult to describe in words. That sound struck straight into my chest. The mobile almost fell from my hands. My heart seemed to stop. The very next moment, my body refused to listen to my mind. I started running. I don't remember in which direction. I was just running, tearing through bushes, stumbling, gasping for breath. From behind, the sound of footsteps was clearly audible, fast, erratic. Matching my own steps, I felt with full intensity that I was not running alone. I did not dare to look back. My heart was saying that if I looked, that might be the last moment. My breath was stuck in my chest. My legs were giving way. But the thought of the motorcycle, the road, the house, all of it kept pushing me forward. Suddenly, coming out of the bushes, I reached the road. My motorcycle was there exactly as I had left it. I turned and looked back. At the edge of the road, very close to the bushes, those same two eyes were glowing again, this time closer than before. And now they were not just eyes. There was a shadow around them, a shape that was not fully visible in the darkness, but enough to break my heart. I didn't waste a moment. I jumped onto the motorcycle. The tire was punctured. That fact had become meaningless to me at that moment. I kicked the starter once, twice. The motorcycle seemed to be deliberately delaying. From behind, that same scream was heard again, this time even closer. The third kick worked. The motorcycle started. I released the clutch and turned the accelerator with full force. The punctured tire was scraping on the road, but I did not stop. I did not look back. Not once. I only knew that if I stopped, perhaps I would never be able to return from this road again. The motorcycle kept moving forward, but it was not a normal speed. Riding on a punctured tire felt as if I would fall at any moment. The handle was shaking. The rear wheel kept trying to slip. But at that moment, the fear of falling was far less than the fear of being left behind. The cold wind was hitting my face, but I could not feel the cold. My body had gone numb. Only my heart was pounding uncontrollably. My breathing was so fast that it felt my chest would burst. I still did not dare to look back, but the feeling did not end. The feeling that someone was moving alongside me, sometimes very close, sometimes a little behind, as if it was watching me, waiting for me to weaken. The road now seemed longer than before. Every turn was a test. Every pothole felt as if the motorcycle would give up right there. Many times I felt like screaming, calling out to someone, but the voice would get stuck in my throat. There was no one here to hear. At some distance, I felt as if something moved in the bushes. I didn't look there. At that moment, looking would have been like destroying myself. I just kept the speed steady. For a moment, I felt as if someone called my name from behind, in a very faint voice. My blood seemed to freeze. I convinced myself that it was the sound of the wind or my own mind. I gritted my teeth and sped up the motorcycle even more, even though the punctured tire couldn't bear much more. After a while, that part of the road came where a faint light was visible in the distance, perhaps from some village. That light became a sign of life for me. I prayed in my heart that this ordeal would just end. As I moved forward, the light became clearer, and along with it, that feeling slowly began to recede. The weight behind me lightened slightly. My breath steadied a little, but my heart was still not completely at ease. When I finally reached near the habitation, I felt for the first time that perhaps I had survived. The doors of houses, closed shops, trees standing on the roadside, everything was ordinary, familiar. But for me, all of this felt foreign, as if I had returned from some other place. I did not stop the motorcycle. I kept going straight toward my city. Now the sound of the puncture was also becoming fainter, perhaps because my mind was somewhere else. When I entered the lane of my house, the motorcycle slowed down on its own. As soon as I stopped the motorcycle in front of the door, my hands began to tremble. While taking out the key, my fingers would not cooperate. The door opened and my mother was standing in front. "Why did you take so long?" she said. I could not speak. My voice had left me. As I stepped inside, I felt dizzy. The next moment, I remember sitting on the floor or perhaps falling. I don't remember clearly. Fever came overnight. My body was burning, but somewhere inside, a strange cold remained that would not go away. The whole family gathered. Someone was bringing water, someone was covering me with a sheet, someone was asking questions. I just kept looking at the ceiling. And between that ordinary fan on the ceiling, I kept seeing those two glowing eyes. That night I could not sleep. When I closed my eyes, the road, the bushes, and that scream would return. Time seemed to have stopped. The ticking of the clock was clearly audible, but the minutes were not moving forward. The fever made my body burn. Sweat would come, then cold would follow. My mother would sometimes place a wet cloth on my forehead, sometimes bring a glass of water near my mouth. But everything felt very distant to me, as if I was in the room but not present here. My father kept asking, "What did you see? Was there a man, an animal?" I wanted to say something, but my tongue would not cooperate. What I had seen was not something that could be put into words. I only said there was something in the darkness behind me. Hearing this, silence fell in the room. My elder brothers looked at each other. No one said anything, but everyone's faces held the same question that was in my own heart. All night I remained in a semi-conscious state. Sometimes I would doze off, sometimes suddenly wake up. Every time I opened my eyes, the room seemed different. The shadows on the walls would grow longer, then shrink. The sound of the fan would sometimes seem very loud, sometimes completely gone. For the next 10 days I did not sleep properly. When I did sleep, I would see a woman. How those 10 days passed, if I start describing that, the story would become too long. After that, my uncle brought blessed water from an elder and a talisman, after which I was able to sleep peacefully. But despite that, even today, I cannot forget that night. The road, the bushes, the darkness, and those eyes, sometimes they appear in my mind in the blink of an eye. I know that woman no longer comes in my dreams, but the intensity of that night, the fear, and that unusual silence, it is still preserved in some corner of my heart, and perhaps it always will be.